My name is Michael, and I'm 33 years old. Recently, I learned one of life's harshest lessons. Being married to someone who sees you as little more than a paycheck is a one-way ticket to misery. Looking back, I realized that what I thought were good times were nothing more than an illusion. Let me take you back to where it all began. When I first met Ashley, she was a firecracker, bursting with energy, laughter, and just the right amount of wild to make life exhilarating. From the moment we got together, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. Every glance, every touch, it was electric. The passion between us was undeniable, and I was convinced I'd found my forever person. But as I would later learn, marriage has a funny way of revealing who someone truly is. Fast forward 4 years, and our once fiery relationship had been reduced to something painfully mundane. The excitement was gone, replaced with routine and, if I was being honest, a growing sense of detachment. I had lost count of the number of times I'd heard, "Not tonight, I'm tired." But on one particular night, after what felt like the 100th rejection, I decided to bring it up. Big mistake. Ashley looked at me with the calm, patronizing tone of a kindergarten teacher, explaining why you don't eat glue. "Michael, I don't owe you anything in the bedroom." I blinked, waiting for the punchline. "You're kidding, right?" She didn't even hesitate. "No, I'm your wife, not your object." Her certainty was unnerving, as if she had just delivered a universal truth. Meanwhile, I sat there stunned, wondering how the hell we had ended up like this. To be clear, I wasn't demanding sex on a schedule. But when your wife flat out tells you that physical intimacy is off the table indefinitely, it makes you question if you're married or just living with an expensive roommate. I tried to reason with her. "Ash, this isn't just about sex. It's about connection, closeness, us." She sighed, exasperated, like I had just asked her to solve a complex math equation. "Michael, we're fine. Stop overthinking everything." Spoiler alert, we were not fine. In the months that followed, I did everything I could to bridge the growing distance between us. Date nights, cooking her favorite meals, even folding laundry, a task I despised with a passion. Every effort was met with the same indifferent response. A quick peck on the cheek, like I was an overly helpful co-worker. One night, desperate for a breakthrough, I suggested therapy. Maybe a counselor could help us navigate whatever was happening between us. Ashley's reaction? She laughed. "Michael, therapy isn't going to make me want you more." That one stung. But I wasn't ready to give up yet, so I booked a session anyway, hoping she would change her mind. She didn't. Instead, she rolled her eyes and said, "Why can't you just accept that this is how I am now? Marriage isn't all about sex, you know?" That was the moment I realized something crucial. Ashley wasn't going to change. And honestly, maybe I shouldn't have to beg my own wife to care. After that, something in me shifted. I stopped pleading for affection and started focusing on myself. I hit the gym, spent more time with friends, and even picked up an old hobby, woodworking, if you're curious. But as I pulled away, Ashley's indifference felt more glaring than ever, like a neon sign flashing, "You're the problem." I started questioning my own sanity. Was I overreacting? Was she really this apathetic? Then out of nowhere, Ashley dropped a bombshell. She walked into the living room, all smiles, and casually announced, "I've been thinking maybe we should start trying for kids." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Kids? Are you serious?" "Yes, Michael. We're not getting any younger, and it's the next logical step." Logical step? I stared at her, tried to gauge if this was some kind of joke. "Ashley, we've had sex twice this year." "Twice? And you think now is the right time to have a baby?" Her smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. "Well, maybe that's something we can work on." Oh! Now she wanted to work on it. How convenient. I felt my blood pressure rising. So instead of saying something I regret, I walked out of the room. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, reality sank in. Kids weren't just a logical step. They were a lifetime commitment. And the idea of raising a child in a marriage where one partner was completely checked out, it wasn't just depressing. It was terrifying. The next morning, I called a lawyer. By the end of the week, I had divorce papers ready to go. I wasn't playing games anymore. On Monday, I handed them to her. "Michael, what the hell is this?" she asked, staring at the papers like they were radioactive. "A divorce petition," I said flatly. "I've thought about this long and hard, and I think it's the best thing for both of us." She blinked, clearly not expecting me to actually follow through. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." For the first time in years, Ashley didn't have a snappy comeback. She just sat there, staring at the papers in stunned silence. Over the next few days, her reaction morphed from shock to full-blown hysteria. There were tears, arguments, and plenty of guilt trips. "I thought you loved me," she sobbed at one point. "I do love you," I admitted. But love isn't enough if there's no effort from both sides. As I started packing my things, Ashley's desperation took a new turn. One evening, she walked into our bedroom wearing lingerie I had never seen before, the kind straight out of Victoria's Secret runway show. She even had props. "Michael," she purred, leaning against the doorframe, "maybe we could give this another shot." For a brief second, I hesitated. Maybe she was serious this time. Maybe she had finally realized what she was about to lose. But then reality hit me like a truck. Where had all this effort been for the past 2 years? And more importantly, why did it take divorce papers to get her to care? "Sorry, Ashley," I said, stepping past her. "You're a little late." Her jaw dropped. "You're really going to throw this all away?" I turned to face her. "No, you already did." After that, Ashley tried everything: seduction, emotional pleas, and finally, my personal favorite, guilt trips. "You're abandoning me," she cried one morning as I packed my last bag. "I gave you the best years of my life, Michael." I zipped up my duffel bag and looked her dead in the eye. "Ashley, you gave me exactly what you thought was enough to keep me around. Let's not rewrite history." Her tears stopped instantly, replaced with a hardened expression. "Fine. Leave. You'll regret this." Ah, there it was. The classic "you'll never do better than me" speech. I shrugged, slung my bag over my shoulder, and walked out. For the first time in years, I didn't look back. I spent the first few nights in a hotel, sorting out finances and making sure Ashley couldn't access anything she wasn't entitled to. A few days later, my sister called. "Come stay with me," she said. "It'll be good for you to be around family." By the weekend, I was back in my hometown, figuring out my next steps. But, of course, Ashley wasn't done. The text started first. Asterisk, "I miss you. Can we talk?" Asterisk, asterisk, "I know I messed up. Please, just give me one more chance." Asterisk, then came the voicemails. Asterisk, "Michael, please. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Just come home." Asterisk, home. That house hadn't felt like home in years. And then one night, Ashley reached a new low. My phone buzzed. It was a picture from her, dressed in lingerie, holding a bottle of champagne. The caption? Asterisk, "Let's celebrate a fresh start." Asterisk. My sister glanced at the screen and burst out laughing. "Wow, she's really pulling out all the stops, huh?" I muttered as I deleted the photo. She's nothing if not persistent. My apartment was small, just enough space for me, my thoughts, and the quiet that followed the storm of my divorce. It wasn't much, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I was focusing on myself. I poured my energy into work, reconnected with old friends, and tried to figure out who I was outside of being someone's husband. One night, while mindlessly scrolling through social media, I saw a post from Ashley. She was out with friends, smiling like nothing had happened. The caption read, "Here's to new chapters." I let out a dry chuckle. For someone who once swore she couldn't live without me, she seemed to be managing just fine. But then again, appearances had always been Ashley's specialty. That's not to say everything was perfect. There were lonely nights, moments of doubt, and the occasional pang of wondering if I'd ever find someone who truly understood me. But as time passed, those feelings faded, replaced by a peace I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. I was living for myself. The divorce process was surprisingly smooth. Not enjoyable, of course. Lawyers, paperwork, and awkward meetings with Ashley where she did her best to play the victim were exhausting. But in the end, we kept things civil. She wanted to keep the house, and I didn't fight her on it. That place held too many memories I was ready to leave behind. The agreement was straightforward. She would pay me half of the house's value over the next 5 years. My lawyer ensured the terms were airtight. No delays, no excuses. Ashley tried to argue, but I wasn't budging. Everything else, bank accounts, furniture, was split evenly. When it was all over, I walked away feeling lighter, like I had just dropped a 100-pound weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. About 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I had finally started settling into my new life. Then came the phone call from Jake, an old friend who usually didn't care for gossip, but clearly couldn't resist this time. "Dude," he said, barely able to contain his laughter, "you'll never guess who Ashley is dating now." I sighed. "Do I even want to know?" "Oh, trust me, you do. This guy, he's something else." That something turned out to be a guy named Trevor. Curiosity got the best of me, so I did a quick social media search. There they were, Ashley and Trevor, posing in front of our house, all smiles. Trevor was wearing a tank top that read "Hustle Hard," his arms covered in tattoos that looked like they had been doodled by a bored middle schooler. I couldn't help myself. I laughed out loud, alone in my apartment. Later that week, Jake filled me in on the details. Trevor, as it turned out, was a serial entrepreneur, which was a fancy way of saying he sold knockoff energy drinks out his car and called himself an influencer despite having only 512 followers. He had also been married twice and had a reputation for couch hopping between girlfriends. "He's living with her now," Jake added. "Guess he doesn't have his own place." Classic. At first, I expected to feel some kind of bitterness, maybe even jealousy. But honestly, all I felt was relief. If this was Ashley's idea of an upgrade, then I had definitely dodged a bullet. Still, I couldn't help but wonder how long it would take for her to realize she had traded stability for whatever Trevor was offering. Not my problem anymore. After the whirlwind of the divorce and the ridiculousness of Trevor, I decided I needed a break from everything. Just one night to relax, enjoy myself, and maybe, if the universe was feeling generous, meet some normal people for a change. That's how I ended up at a small craft beer bar downtown. The place had a great vibe, lively but not overcrowded. Rows of taps lined the wall, each one labeled with quirky names like Apocalypse IPA and Pineapple Express Pale Ale. I grabbed a spot at the bar, or a flight of the most interesting-looking beers, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. I was halfway through a rich chocolate stout when she walked in. Short auburn hair, an easy smile, a leather jacket that practically screamed, "I'm cooler than you, but I won't rub it in." She slid onto the stool next to mine, glanced at my flight, and smirked. "Trying to drink the whole menu?" she teased. I laughed, just narrowing down my favorites. "Any recommendations?" She tilted her head, considering. "Depends. Are you a hops guy or a hide the alcohol with fruit guy?" I'd like to think I'm versatile. That earned me a laugh. "All right, try the mango saison. Trust me." Her name was Samantha, Sam, as she insisted. We spent the next hour talking about everything from beer to travel to the absurdity of people who put pineapple on pizza. She was firmly anti-pineapple. I was neutral. There was something about her, an energy that was light and confident, without being overwhelming. It was refreshing after years of emotional tug-of-war with Ashley. When the bartender called last round, I realized I didn't want the night to end. "Listen," I said, summoning a confidence I didn't quite feel. "This has been fun. Would you be up for dinner sometime?" "My treat." She smiled. "Bold move, asking me out while I'm half a beer ahead of you. But yeah, I like that." We exchanged numbers, and for the first time in forever, I left the bar with a genuine smile on my face. A few days later, over plates of pasta and glasses of wine, we talked about everything. Her job in graphic design, my new interest in woodworking, even the time she accidentally adopted a ferret. Long story, but hilarious. Eventually, the conversation turned to relationships. "So," she asked, swirling her wine, "what's your story? Any crazy exes?" I chuckled. "You have no idea." I gave her the short version. Married young, Things fell apart, and now I was figuring out life again. She listened intently, eyes never leaving mine. "What about her?" she asked. "What was she like?" "Oh, you'll love this." I pulled out my phone and showed her the picture of Ashley and Trevor. "That's her, and that's her new whatever he is." Sam's eyes widened. Then, to my surprise, she let out a sharp laugh. "Wait a second," she said, handing the phone back. "I know this guy." My eyebrows shot up. "You do?" "Yeah. Trevor used to hang out with some friends of mine. Total mooch. But here's the kicker. I've seen it with your ex before, like months ago." I froze. "What do you mean, months ago?" "I mean," she said carefully, "I saw them together at a party, holding hands. This was way before you said your divorce even started." For a moment, I couldn't speak. My mind raced. Connecting dots I hadn't even realized were there. If Sam was right, and I had no reason to doubt her, it meant Ashley and Trevor hadn't just been a post-divorce rebound. They had been together while I was still married. I had spent months blaming myself, wondering what I had done wrong. But now, as I sat there, everything became painfully clear. The late nights, the sudden interest in the gym, the way she guarded her phone, like it held national secrets. She hadn't just lost interest in me. She had already moved on. And yet, the realization didn't sting the way I expected it to. Instead, I felt something else. Relief. Ashley's choices were hers. They were never a reflection of my worth. And now, she was Trevor's problem. I smirked at the thought. Good luck to her. Something told me she was going to need it.